Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to those of you around the world. Welcome to Trading Rebellion with your favorite analysts at Trade the Chain. My name is Nick Mancini, joined by CJ and Monte. We are here to break down everything going on in crypto, TradeFi, macro, and everything in between. If you were watching the crypto charts today, you either had a lot of fun or were very miserable. And I think everybody on the show did a little bit of both today, missing out on some of the moves, but also predicting some of the moves as well. So we're going to break down everything going on in crypto as well as TradeFi in just a second. Do want to set the tone today with what we are expecting ahead for the week in terms of news and quote unquote macro. The big thing that everybody will, of course, be paying attention to is Wednesday's FOMC meeting. There is a 1% chance of a hike on Wednesday, meaning it's very likely for a pause. Keeping the federal funds rate at 5.25 to 5.5%, which many have predicted as possibly the terminal rate. We may have one more hike in store, and that's really going to be the story during the press conference. So 2 p.m. hike, I would expect volatility, but no real market movement or momentum around that time. But at 2:30, when he has the presser, we will of course get the kind of the Federal Reserve's opinion as a whole as to future rate hikes, whether or not they're pleased with inflation, unemployment, the economy at large, and what they think they may need to do about it. And Jerome Powell's been walking that line, but there is the expectation of a possible hike in the October or November meeting, which are the last two meetings of the year. So another hike could imply some bearish momentum on the horizon, possibly end of Q3 heading into Q4. So I'll pause it right here. Monte, CJ, anything standing out to you guys in terms of the FOMC meeting on Wednesday? Is there key language you're looking for? Are you calling Jay Powell's bluff, or are you playing it patient and going to react to whatever he says rather than try and predict whatever he says?
Yeah, I don't know. This whole Fed and FOMC stuff just bores me at this point. I think, there might be interim volatility during that single day, but I don't really expect Wednesday to be like a trend setting day per se. But then again, we'll see. To answer your question, yeah, it's good. I'm personally going to be more reactive. I don't really know what to expect. I know the futures markets are pricing in potentially a pause, but we'll see. Does definitely feel like a vibe shift has kind of come in late last week and definitely early this week. So I'm excited to talk about that, and a lot of assets making very interesting moves today. But Monty, what are your thoughts about FOMC or any of the macro situation currently?
Yeah, I'm largely in agreement with you. I'm going to be trading it reactively. You guys know how I trade. I don't like to make estimations about things and then, guess about, earnings or anything like that. I'll trade what is given to us from Jay Powell. And, really, for me, I don't think it's going to be anything equity related that I'm going to be trading in the next week, just based on what I'm seeing today. Of course, it is Monday, historically a pretty bad day for equities. We could see a turnaround tomorrow. That being said, I'm really encouraged by what we're seeing out of Bitcoin, despite the fact we have retraced quite a bit in the last hour. That move that we made to start the day, and kind of, or I guess it started in the middle of the night and then into the morning, I think is so crucial. And that's really kind of where all my attention has been focused. So, the FOMC thing, not too worried about it. I think that ultimately we're going to keep grinding down. The technicals are still telling me that. We talked about that 11 point on Livermore accumulation cycle. Unless we get above like 15.6 in the NASDAQ, I'm still pretty bearish equities. That being said, the independent strength that Bitcoin's showing, once again, just further kind of gives me a bit of conviction. And even though it was started by a short squeeze, like CJ mentioned it this morning, and we kind of joked, every single rally or every single bull run has been started by a short squeeze, pretty much, in crypto's
There's
history.
always going to be one person who's short at the exact low. Somebody has to print the low.
Somebody's got to do it. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And last night, let me just pull this up real quick. We did see a pretty significant amount of liquidations that continued into the morning as people tried to kind of short as the equity market opened, but ultimately got squeezed out and we grinded higher. That was where Bitcoin showed that really nice price action, carrying us up to that level of 27.5. But ultimately, last thing I will say, and I said this morning as well, but I do want to reiterate, and this is just, speaking to the value of our Discord, but if we take a look at the 200-day moving average, that's still my target. That's still my target. I still think we do eventually hit that because of the death cross and because of the fact that, now that we've had this move, I think a bunch of people are going to come in, try and short again and get squeezed out, and we see a move to the upside. And to CJ's credit, he talked about this all the way back on the 12th.
I think the sentiment chart is the most important part of that analysis. If you go to the look into Bitcoin, and
the divergence,
it's almost comical. The influencers who have just been like fighting at one another, like it's been so negative on crypto Twitter. So seeing this, rebound in the 200-day moving average is quite interesting. It's pretty much exactly what we actually saw in 2019.
Right. Yeah. And Nick, that's something that we had talked about on that episode of Trading Rebellion, the similarities between or what we could expect to see following, the death cross and what we saw in 2019. And this is a very comparable move. People got short on the basis of the death cross and equity markets being weak, and they got punished. And then people tried to jump on the long side, and then they got punished. So, it's your typical, your typical Bitcoin mania. That being said, at the end of the day, I still like where we're sitting at currently, which is above that level that I was talking about all last week, which is 26.2. As long as we remain above that level, I'm bullish. And, I still think that we'll see continued buyers stepping in and eventually reach that 200-day moving average.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you guys there. And speaking on kind of what you just talked about, Monte, for short-term price action. So just to kind of give some technicals here, this is now the Monday high. So, we could obviously get higher than that before the close, but usually this will be kind of the high marked out for the day. The low is down here. Obviously we had a quick dump yesterday after the open, or I get the weekly open, weekly close, however you want to describe that. So our low is down here at the 26.3 number. So even if we sweep the low and hold the low, we're still making a higher low on the, it's not really a macro time frame. We're looking at 15 minutes, 1 hour here. But as long as you stay, above that 26.3 number, or even sweep and form a wick down to 26.2, you're still good for bullish trajectory. And so, what we're looking at is, top of the Monday range, bottom of the Monday range. So maybe we jump up here, trap a bunch of longs, we drop down, sweep all the, kill all the longs, and then ride right back up on Tuesday, take out the high, run up to this 27.7 number, and then, do it. Big fake out. So, or obviously retake 27.7 and then end up moving higher. So, I think that what we're looking at here is positioned for kind of peak messing with everybody. And I think Monte makes a really good point, but I'm weary to just start diving in. This isn't a bad, 15-minute estimated trend moving average here to build along, maybe, up here, maybe we retake that. But I would say we're much more likely to sweep the Monday low and then kill, the Monday high again before dropping back potentially lower before some of that FTX selling takes in. And I think, this is something I mentioned in the TTC community. And, another, reason, as Monte mentioned, to be in the community is this is usually textbook. Like I'm going to short at least some of this move. We had as much open interest as the grayscale candle. Actually more than that. And what happened after the grayscale candle is we gave all that back. So, I'm not saying we're going to give all this back immediately. Open interest could certainly continue up and drag some prices higher. But anytime we see a massive open interest, especially to begin the week, it's usually going to be a move to fade. So that's another just kind of, something to watch for as you're planning trades week over week and moving into Q3, Q4. So, but I don't really have a direct read on here. I did mention to Monte and CJ kind of interested in shorting a spike into 27.1 if we get it. But if we retake 27.1 and close above it, then it gives more credence to either sweeping those highs or running back to 27.7. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for short-term BTC price action.
Yeah.
Anything else standing out to you guys?
Well, I'd like to talk to the higher time frames, or I don't know what is higher or lower. The longer, like daily. I want to go over a couple assets.
Do you have a chart?
As well as, yeah, I'll pull something up.
What are we talking about when you say higher time frames?
Yeah, is it higher or lower? Is a higher time frame like a 15-minute or a
HTF?
Weekly?
I consider HTF 4 hour and above, and then LTF to me is 1 hour and below.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to go through some of the just daily charts and the cues and make the case for more bullish equity price action despite the lower high that we actually have here in NASDAQ. So Russell has continued to be a dog, but like large caps have been leading. So I want to go over just a little bit, but we still are holding that. I am still going to be bullish above the 20 SMMA. But Apple, for instance, reversal candle yesterday and today at the bottom of a downtrend, still has
that deviation is ugly. Sorry to interrupt, CJ. That deviation in like late August, early September it just does not look attractive.
Yeah. And Microsoft below the 20 smooth moving average, basically neutral. Same thing with Amazon. However, Google's still, going towards highs. Meta reversal candle potentially today. Tesla looking to be testing support, that little complex pullback type idea. Nvidia, somewhat of a reversal candle today. Same thing with AMD. We'll see with Intel. Anyways, my point is that a lot of these charts aren't like horrible. And, I did buy some coin today and increased long exposure for like the longer term. And that's because I think we have a very close potential of hitting a top in a lot of these crowded assets that have just been really trending for quite a while. HODLer, I think, has a potential of topping today. And, well, yesterday, technically. Follow through would be today also. And then, really like the moves that we've seen in heating oil as well as like crude, I think today might be an interesting day for that reversal finally in crude oil. It's been so prevalent among like the discussion is like people are just concerned about oil moving higher and the dollar moving higher. And now that hedge funds are net long the dollar, we'll see ultimately what happens. But, I think those trends are kind of getting a bit stretched, and the Nasdaq's actually maybe not as bad as what people think. It has been a brutal start to September. So perhaps the second half ends up being a little bit more positive.
The dollar is really tricky right now. Sorry, I didn't mean to pull all of our faces away. There we go. The dollar is really tricky. I mean, if we're kind of going on a pattern basis, it looks like it's starting to form it's starting to form a pattern in which it looks a little toppy. If we look here, bull flag, run up, bull flag, sweep the high, deviate, and then drop. So then we got here, sweep the high, deviate, drop. Sweep the high. So we sweep the high here, didn't deviate, we ran up, and now we're sweeping the high again. If we drop back below 105, we'll have deviated that high, and that would be a possible trigger for the shorts of basically what we saw in March as well as June. So I think it's important to kind of keep a very close. I'm not bearish dollar yet because I haven't seen a confirmation of what I would expect as a bearish reversal, but it's certainly getting to that area. And especially as we creep up to this 105.9, 106 area, it could possibly sweep that high and then just kind of drop back down again. So definitely an area where if you're a giga bear, if you're like, I am, shorting everything into Q4, I don't care what anybody says, this is where I would start to kind of rethink that bias a little bit. I am still bearish heading into Q4, but I've relaxed on like, I want to short every move with vigor. And I think that's, probably a smart idea to kind of take in hand, because even if you do win a short, what if you just get squeezed and then you break even and then you're stressed and you're still hoping for lower prices? That's not a really good mindset to be heading into a brand new year, in my opinion. So CJ makes a really good point there on the dollar. Anything else? I think equities, to me, definitely do not look great. I think we could still maybe range around here for a little bit before, dropping below the September low. But I mean, let's zoom out, appease CJ's higher time frame outlook. I don't know why I have this drawing there, but definitely forming that lower high. I think we actually talked about this candle right here, is if we actually formed another lower high here, this would be a really good short opportunity. We're of course sitting at support, but a break of what level is this? 4440, and then things get pretty ugly, right? I mean, then you're dropping back down to the estimated 200 moving average at that point if this fails. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, that might
certainly doesn't excite me, but it's still surviving above 4440 in my opinion.
Yeah, that's definitely a likely situation. I think that is what it may take for to scare the market essentially back into shorting heavily, because people are still buying the dip. Aside from hedge funds have actually had their largest outflow, 20-day outflow in equities in quite a while, whereas you've seen like larger funds like maybe like sovereign wealth funds or pension funds actually having record levels of equity inflows on this dip. So I think you're seeing just interesting stuff between positioning and sentiment right now.
Was it you who shared a tweet? And I think I saw the same tweet that like hedge funds are historically underexposed right now, like insanely underexposed. We will probably try and share that tweet in the TTC community again, because it's a good one. I obviously, we don't know if the data is, I think it was from some like a hedge fund research, something really like nondescript. So, you never know if you're seeing it on Twitter, but if hedge funds are historically underexposed, I think the last time that they were was like right before like, Lehman went under, or maybe right after. So that's certainly a cause for concern. So I'm definitely watching. I think this 4440 level, in my opinion, is extremely critical. And a confirmation below that is certainly going to send us back down to the August low, and possibly even lower. So I think that's something to definitely watch out for in the short term. And if that's happening to equities, I would be shocked if crypto is holding very strong.
Crypto, hey man, you got to acknowledge the strength crypto has had though these past couple days.
That's what I was.
Let's let Monte talk. He's been patiently sitting.
But I think before we let Monte get to his piece, is strength considered a short squeeze, or is a short squeeze considered strength? And I think it's tough to say that we're really seeing interested buyers here instead of just a short squeeze. So
I think, I think if you're trying to define what strength is, it's almost a waste of time. Strength is when price goes up. That's it. Right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a buyer or if it's a seller getting liquidated. It's the same exact thing. It's the same exact thing happening. So strength to me is price going up, and weakness is price going down. It's really as simple as that. And what I will say is that I think we can continue to grind higher even in the face of a weak equity market, because for some reason people continue to try and short Bitcoin when it retest critical levels, and each time they do, it gets squeezed out. And you talked about that big open interest. We saw a big flush of that, but now that we've kind of pulled back and retraced from the move this morning, when we get back down towards like 26.4, or when we get back towards the previous levels of support, which is like basically 26.6 or so, I would not be at all surprised to see people trying to short this market. In fact, if we go back, this is like, these are all from last week's show. Like, I talked about how I'd be looking to accumulate if we had any wicks that went down below this critical level here of 26.2. I would not at all be surprised to see something comparable to this, right? Where we see a retrace of the move, and then we see people trying to pile. It's almost the same thing that happened on the way up, where people try and pile in on the way down. They see a bunch of altcoins that are still potentially overextended. They try and short them, and they get squeezed out. I still think that is a very plausible scenario, even with a falling equity market. But one thing that I think is interesting, and that being said, full disclosure, I am so long Bitcoin. I did take some profit this morning. Talked about that on the show, but I'm basically always going to be long Bitcoin. I'll let you know when I'm completely out. Probably won't be for a while, but
2030.
Yeah, 2030, 2050, who knows? I might just die with my ledger, or I'm kidding. Don't even have a ledger anymore.
Take it to
the grave. Yeah, that's right. Like a pharaoh. But at the end of the day, I think that we could really see continued Bitcoin strength. We've round tripped fully now since that short squeeze, right? Now, if people try and get greedy, which knowing crypto traders, they're going to try and get greedy, I wouldn't be surprised to see some shorts pile in here, only to get squeezed out and send us back slowly up towards this level, and then ultimately, hit that target of the 200-day moving average. I still think that we hit that, or approximately 28K is kind of where I'm looking for Bitcoin to go in the coming days. But one thing that I think will be interesting is how the crypto related equities perform. And CJ, I want to ask you this one, because I know you mentioned that you bought Coinbase. You dragged me into that trade along with you. And probably some members
take some personal responsibility. God.
I'm kidding. I'm never
we
dragged in.
deserve to lose money in that situation.
True. I definitely was looking to buy it as well, so it's not like he dragged me into anything. I'm never be forced to take, or never blindly take a trade just because someone says so. Do your due diligence. But what do you think, CJ? Do you think that if we see the NASDAQ pulling back and Bitcoin climbing higher, what would that mean for Coinbase? I think that would be a very confusing situation for Coinbase. What would you predict?
Well, obviously it depends on the variation of the NASDAQ, but I think, from a most basic perspective of the situation you just laid out, probably flat or up a little bit. In that situation, you'd probably see altcoins like Lido up more, or crypto native assets up more. But I just saw this statistic and I wanted to share it with you both because I thought it was pretty indicative of what we've seen in the market. If anybody's got the NVIDIA chart up, it'd be great to see that. Was trading down 10% in the pre-market.
Yeah, here.
And I think is now green on the day.
This is the hourly chart.
Yeah, a lot of buying at that low today.
Yeah, at that 425 level. Highly critical level for NVIDIA. It is interesting, though. It is interesting. And this has been like kind of the backbone of a lot of them, a lot of the move, in my opinion. I don't know about you guys, but
I think a general good rule of thumb for stocks like this, especially when the CEO is selling like multiple clips over a certain week or multiple weeks, is, I mean, it's same thing kind of with Tesla, because I look at it as very much a meme stock these days, is if there's no insider buys, it's just a tradable asset. Until you see those insider buys is when it becomes an investable asset. And sure, you know, Nick, you're an idiot. AI is going to go crazy. I'll buy it because of the narrative, blah, blah, blah. But it's tough to also think that you're smarter than the guy who runs the company. And so, you know, if there's no big, you know, executive buys, it's a tough investable asset for me. But obviously, if you're lower, I certainly wouldn't be selling yet until it breaks support, because there's going to be buys coming in at support that could also lift it higher. So that's just kind of my general take, because I know a lot of people look at this as like, I want to hold this for 10, 20 years or whatever. But to me right now, it just looks like a tradable asset, at least in the short term. So,
yeah. And it's kind of crazy to think about that we already need to start thinking about the next earnings report. Because obviously that's been a significant catalyst in both directions for NVIDIA. But still a ways off. So
I'd love to play devil's advocate a little bit just for fun. Not saying that like I don't feel strongly about this view or anything, but you know, I think where we have to compare NVIDIA is somewhat similar to where Tesla was in 2019, 2020, and perhaps even Amazon in 2010 and the early 2010s. You know, many people called it a bubble and said, you know, this thing should be, you know, going much lower, but like eventually, you know, like the macro trend or the super cycle of the innovation behind these companies did prevail. I think, you know, when people were making fun of Tesla back in like 2019, they didn't understand the vision. I think people a lot of times still don't understand the vision of Tesla, where it's becoming the Apple of car companies. It will be the most dominant self-driving, like with it's, and it's not even close. So I think people, you know, they underestimate Tesla for that reason, and they probably likely did the same thing with Amazon. And so, you know, we'll see. I'm just trying to put forth the idea that even if people are calling something a bubble, it probably means they're still on the sidelines or haven't bought yet. So, I mean, I'm not long NVIDIA. I'm not advocating a buy or a sell for NVIDIA. I'm just kind of trying to be a smart ass, I suppose, and play devil's advocate.
No, I mean, I think it's fair, because plenty of people have gotten blown the hell out, you know, trying to short something too early or exiting a position and then, you know, feeling like they want to jump off a bridge because they missed out on another 20, 30%. So it's a good point to make.
And like, when do you expect, when other times should these CEOs sell? Like, you know, this is a perfect time for them to sell.
Yeah, Brian Armstrong sold and then watched that thing go up another 20, 30%. So talking about coin. So they're not always right, but it is also, you know, historically, when you look at, you know, Bezos and, you know, Elon sells and stuff like that, they usually know what they're doing. So one thing I wanted to bring it back to is the Bitcoin strength, because I think Monte makes a good point. You know, if price is going up, you know, price is going up. You can't argue with that. But I think the one thing I just wanted to point out is what I'm, you know, kind of defining as strength and what makes me interested in buys. And what we're looking at here on the left is the delta for spot buying and then the delta for perp buying. And then on the right here, we actually have all the exchange specifics. So we have Binance Spot, we have Coinbase, we have Bitfinex, Binance Perps, and then we have Bybit as well. And if we look at this chart, you know, I think the obvious thing that should look, you know, stand out to you is that the spot buying has been abysmal compared to perps. And if we look at the CVD chart, spot is down only for the most part, whereas perps are clearly interested in key times, as is spot, but clearly not the degree of perps. And if I'm seeing that just continue to decline, that means whatever spot interest is there is quickly dissipated. And as we're seeing, if this candle closes like it is today underneath the wicks of the highs from late last week, that's going to be an extremely bearish signal, in my opinion, and very likely is going to result in something extremely similar to the grayscale candle. So although Coinbase is certainly interested and was interested before the grayscale, they clearly sold all of that off and have not showed any interest whatsoever. And where's most of the green? It's in the perps. So I'm not ready to say that any Bitcoin is going to have any strength or crypto as a whole until I start to see spot outpacing perps, because we know that to actually have a rally that is long lasting, you have to have spot participation. Perps are just going to continue to get murdered back and forth, and money's going to exchange hands. So that's just the one thing I want to point out. Not that I don't think Bitcoin can't gain strength from this area, but as it looks to me right now, it's just a very worrying picture, and points to at least lower in the short term, especially when we talk about this. We didn't even bring up this chart yet. $500 million in Bitcoin, $250 million in ETH, and random alts, and then you've got 1.2 billion worth of SOL ready to go into the markets as well. So definitely paints a worrying picture. But can Bitcoin make it out of this trough? Certainly, but with a daily candle like this, it definitely worries me. So. Any thoughts on the SOL or on the FTX selling, guys? These
people, these people want the best price. I doubt. Why would they just hit the market order button? Like, do you really think there's going to have this much price impact? It's like, what if Justin Sun or a whale just comes in and say, you know what, I think SOL will still go higher. Maybe it won't make another new all-time high, but I'm willing to buy it here at very cheap levels from the FTX liquidators with minimal price impact. If you're a bullish on an asset like that, and there are many VCs who have, Chris Berniski, one that definitely comes to mind, who is probably would want to buy SOL in a situation like this. What if it's just absorbed and all this like bearish sentiment is for no reason?
So, Monte, do you have something?
I was just going to say that, like, whenever... Forget about the names of the assets. Forget about the amount being unlocked. Just think about this from like a knowledge perspective, or like an economic and psychological perspective. If you know that this amount of money is going to be dumped onto the market, then we can safely assume that it's already priced in. If it's something that's known by every participant in the market, then there is no edge. There is no, there's no like advantage to the downside. My dog didn't like the fact that there's no edge. He's looking for some alpha. But seriously, like, think about it. Everyone has been talking about this for like weeks now, and it's just like, to me, even if. And CJ's right. Like, a spot whale probably will come in and buy this. But regardless of that, like, the fact that chart has been circulating for so long tells me that news is already priced in, and those sales won't have any significant impact on the market. And when the day comes that those tokens are unlocked, whenever it is, everyone's going to be looking down, and price is going to go up, and they're going to get hurt because they're going to try and short it on the back of that thesis. I think it's kind of a reverse buy the rumors, sell the news type event. And yeah, that's my 2 cents on the whole FTX selling.
So the one question I have for you, Monte, is in that same context. We just saw what happened with Curve and the 40-cent OTC buys, right? So in that, and what you're saying, and I'm just ask a question, was the 40-cent OTC Curve buys immediately priced in, although the market was aware of it? Because it was very transparently done, the way that Evgeny was, transferring the Curve at 40 cents to Justin Sun and other market makers. But it took over a week for price to actually hit 40 cents.
I would say there are 1,000 times more eyes on this FTX selling than there were on that curve news. So again, it's about the amount of people that know. And if everyone that's participating in the game knows, then it's already priced in. But if only a small portion is paying attention, like with the curve scenario, then there is an edge to be had there. Because I'm sure, like, even, I'm sure 90% of crypto Twitter has no idea what went on with Curve. But
I don't. Took like
Exhibit A.
Yeah, no, for real.
But how many times have you seen that chart with how much assets FTX has.
It's like the
Probably-
seasonality chart. Yeah.
And then just to continue that further, so and to kind of go with your point, Monty, we don't know where the SOL OTC buys or what price the SOL OTC buys are going to be set at. What if Justin Sun bought it for $10? Let's say 10% of FTX's stack, so $100 million worth of SOL at $10. We don't know that because it was OTC, right? But what Justin Sun's going to do if he bought, or I mean, what FTX is going to do if he bought the $10 million SOL or $100 million at $10 is he's going to short. And he's going to short down to the $10 to make his trade risk averse. And that's going to put pressure down. And of course, it could fuel the squeeze, which is obviously the trick of the trade. But I think, the red herring is you are correct, in which we are all aware that, the selling is going to happen. What we don't know is what prices the selling is going to happen at. And, if everybody's on call, we know Genesis right now is offloading SOL, locked SOL, OTC right now, but we don't know what price because nobody's giving me that information. Why would they? I'm not big enough. But I think that's the big question. So I do agree with you to a point that probably most of the selling is gone. But if something god awful happens and someone's fire selling SOL at $5, $10, $15, price is going to meet that price eventually. Or a SOL price is going to meet the OTC price is what I'm saying. So I think that's something that we have to, be aware of. And it's why I'm not indiscriminately longing, but I'm also being very chicken on a lot of shorts right now because I do agree with you. But then in the back of my mind, I'm like, someone's probably going to sell that SOL at $10 OTC at some point. And if that does happen, we could see the exact same thing with Curve at 40 cent OTC. Took it a while, but eventually it met that price. So that's what I'm going back. And I know I'm kind of just, talking to talk right now, just to like thinking, but this is what you have to deal with if you are going to make that kind of big ballsy bet. And it's difficult. So I just I think this is a really good discussion though, because we're going to be talking about this until FTX announces they're done selling. So, there's still a couple of red herrings, I think, left in the woods, in my opinion.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. There are more variables at play than just how much FTX has to sell, right?
Yeah. And they might not sell all of it either. Like they may be really intelligent about it, but also Novogratz is doing some of the selling and the guy has a Luna tattoo on his bicep. So
yeah, I think
there could be some poor execution.
Don't overestimate them, Nick. Don't overestimate them.
Yeah, if you think Novogratz is getting the best execution for 100% of trades, I think you might want to check into the mental hospital. But the Beaver 30 asks, what happened to 2-year UST? I actually think that was a glitch. I did see that, and then I think it reverted. Did it not?
There's nothing. It's up like 4 or 5 basis, or it's down 4 or 5 basis points in terms of ZN or ZT.
Yeah, I remember I saw a bunch of people freaking out about that last night, and then I think it quickly reverted. So I think it was a glitch, or if it wasn't a glitch, it was handled quickly.
Yeah, I don't know. There's nothing standing out.
And then shout out Lucas. Appreciate you joining. Always appreciate you in the chat. Took 4 hours to come back in. So yeah, I really don't know the Beav. I was actually looking into that last night. I couldn't find anything definitive. It snapped back and then I just kind of forgot about it. But if that does happen again, short positions reached a high for 2-year treasuries in August. Interesting.
Yeah.
There you go, Lucas. I'll share that. This is what Lucas said.
Everybody wants to be long fixed income or get, that yields. So, or they're just going to short, ZT, ZN, ZF. So that's where it's been a crowded trade that I think will turn eventually, but it could take years, or at least till the Fed kind of eases.
Yeah.
Oh, Lucas posted in Discord another reason to sign up for Trade the Chain. 14-day free trial. www.tradethechain. You get, of course, access to myself, Monte, and CJ, and then other experts like Lucas, who I won't give away his life, but he's lived a very fun life, done a lot of cool things. So, but with that being said, I think we can go ahead and wrap things up. We're about 40 minutes in, not the craziest week in terms of news. Obviously, again, focus on FOMC Wednesday. No real opinion on what's going to happen. It's going to depend on guidance. If you're taking a directional bet into a no hike pre-presser, I think you also may want to get your head checked. But hey, you could be a lot more lucky than I am on those types of trades. So watch out for Bitcoin volatility. What were your numbers for Bitcoin, Monte? 26.6, I think, was a key level for you for possible reversal, or you?
Yep. 26.6, 26.2 in that range. I expect to see some supply absorption. That's what we've seen in the past. So that's where I'm watching, but we shall see.
And that does line up with the low from, I believe, last Friday, which
Yeah.
would be something, which is what you want to hold for a equal high or a possible higher high to set in, which would be good for bullish trajectory. So with that being said, one final note is Didex and BingX, both a decentralized and centralized trading venue that we work with. And you can sign up for either one to get both reduced fees as well as trading rewards special to the links that we have there in the YouTube chat below. And then, of course, we would love to see you in the TTC community, 14-day free trial at www.tradethechain. We will see everybody on Thursday. And please do not forget that Monte and CJ do a morning show every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern that you can find also on this YouTube and on our Twitter. So please watch out for that and make sure you stay up to date on the markets with us. Good luck. Happy trading.